Hey y'all. Hope everybody's having a good day and a nice week. I'm Jan. For anyone who is not new here, and if you are new here, and if you're not new here, I'm going to remake my original bread pudding recipe from June 5th. Um, I told several of y'all in the comments recently that I would remake the entire thing. I had a lot of people comment that they could not hear me. I still have no idea why. Why so many say they can't hear me and everyone else says that they can. It was, I think, my fourth video, and while I've been cooking for decades, I'm not used to recording it. I didn't know there was a thing with the bowls, and so as you can see, I'm using a glass bowl. And I'm using a bigger whisk. I remember somebody fussing at me about my whisk too. Okay, so for this, you need somewhere around 16 slices of bread if you're using sandwich bread. This was most of a loaf, but the slices were pretty big, so I stopped at 14. If you do not like a chewy bread pudding, you want to take your ends off, your edges off of the bread. I like it chewy, so I'm leaving mine on. You can use any kind of bread that you want. You can use biscuits if you want. Brioche bread, French bread, hot dog buns, hamburger buns. Use whatever you want. The only thing that's, in my opinion, sort of important is that you make sure this bread is dried out. This is a new loaf, so this bread was very soft. I put it in the oven on 200 degrees. It should have been for about 15 minutes, but I went outside to water my garden and forgot. So I basically made croutons. But it will still work. It will be fine. Let's just say it's no longer soft. Not even a little bit. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all what you need before I start this. So again, somewhere around a whole loaf of bread. You don't have to use the end pieces, and again, you don't have to use the edges of the bread. You can cut that off if you don't like a chewy bread pudding. You also need 3 eggs beaten. You need 1.5 cups of milk. That's 355 milliliters, I believe. You need 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. This is 14 ounces, 396 grams. You need 1/3 cup of packed brown sugar. That's 73 grams, or you can use granulated sugar. And we're only going to use 1/3 cup of sugar because we're using sweetened condensed milk. You need 1/2 stick of butter melted. That's 57 grams of butter. You need a pinch of salt. You need a tablespoon of vanilla, 15 milliliters, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and that's for the actual bread pudding to start with, to make the glaze to go on top. Now, the only thing I'm going to do different this time is I'm going to use very little raisins, and I think I put an entire cup last time. I'm going to use like 30 grams of raisins. And instead of using 1/2 cup of powdered sugar for my glaze, I'm going to use a whole cup of powdered sugar for the glaze. So to make the glaze, if you just want to use 1/2 cup of powdered sugar, mix it with 1 tablespoon of milk, or 1 whole cup of powdered sugar to 2 tablespoons of milk. But we'll get to that in a bit. So for now, we start with our eggs. Now, all I have right now are these giant double yolk eggs, so I'm using 2 of those. I don't know what a 4th yolk will do. Hopefully nothing. I'll whisk those up. They're beautiful. I don't know what kind of eggs they are, but they sure are beautiful. Beautiful yolks. Okay. We're going to add in my 1/3 cup packed brown sugar. Just make sure you got all the clumps out. I'm going to add my 1.5 cups of whole milk. You can use 2% milk. You could probably use skim milk. I've never done it, but I don't see why you couldn't, especially if you're using sweetened condensed milk. Now we'll add our sweetened condensed milk. You want as much out of that can as you can get. And I'm going to make a mess. But again, I wouldn't be me if I didn't. Okay. I'm going to whisk this together. I won't make y'all watch this. Just get it good. Get your, your milk, your sweetened condensed milk good and whisked into your actual milk and the sugar. Something I failed to tell you in the beginning. So as far as the bread, you can use any bread that you want to use, but you really want it to be, stale. You can use fresh bread if you want, but to ensure that your bread will absorb all of this yummy in the bowl, the bread needs to be kind of dried out, or else it just won't really absorb it right. If all you have is a brand new loaf of bread, take your slices out, just put them on a bake rack, put your oven on 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and just lay your slices of bread out on that. Put it in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes, and that'll dry your bread out for you. Then you can cut it in pretty little squares if you like. I just shredded mine with my hands. If you're going to use fresh bread, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's 180 Celsius, and you can make yours and put it straight into the oven. If you're going to use stale bread, as I intend to do, once I get this mixed up together and in the bake dish, I'm going to let this sit here on the counter for anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes to give this bread time to absorb all of this liquid. Also, this is for a 9x13 bake dish that you want to butter or grease somehow. Okay. Now we're going to add our half of a cup of melted butter, room temp. You just don't want it to be hot or it will scramble your eggs. You need an entire tablespoon of vanilla. And then a teaspoon of cinnamon. And that's it, y'all. Whisk all this together. Oops. Forgot my pinch of salt. Now we're done. All right, I'm gonna whisk this for another second. And then I'm going to grease my baked dish, which I have not done yet. I'm just going to take my stick of butter like I normally do and run it all over the dish. I'll be right back. Okay, yeah, got my dish buttered. I put my bread in here, and I just put my raisins in here. Now, this time I used one little box of raisins. I believe it said 28 grams of raisins. The original one I made, I just think a cup of raisins was too much. So you put whatever you want, however many you want. You know, if you want a cup of raisins, go for it. If you like something else, like, you know, currants, or you just want nuts in yours, or you don't want anything at all in yours, make it however you want. That's the great thing about this. All right, we're going to give this one more little whisk. And we're going to pour it on. Now, like I told y'all, this is going to sit here on the counter for at least 20 minutes, probably closer to 30. Because I know my bread was very, very dry. But right this minute, you want to take a spoon, take something, and press your bread down into the liquid. This ensures that your bread will absorb every bit of what's going to be the custard. Now again, you know, y'all do not have to use sweetened condensed milk. You can use, you know, just regular milk. And if you have not seen that video, I did make another bread pudding with using just whole milk. I realize, you know, not everybody can have sweetened condensed milk, and also that this is a pretty sweet version. Okay. I'm going to let this sit here for, like I said, 15-20 minutes. And then it's going into a 350 degree oven for probably about 30 minutes. I think last time it took close to 40, but this bread is super dry, I feel sure. And plus it's very hot now, so I'll see you a few minutes before this is done so we can make our glaze for the top. Okay, y'all. We're going to make our glaze now. 1 cup of powdered sugar. So 2 tablespoons of milk. And here you go. That's what you want it to look like. Now, if you don't like it, I mean, if you like it, you know, a little bit thinner, I mean, I don't really think it could get thinner, but if you like it thinner, just add a little more milk. But you won't think those 2 tablespoons are enough for an entire cup of powdered sugar, but they are. Just stir, and as you stir, you'll see your powder starting to dissolve into the milk, and you'll have perfect glaze. Okay, be back in a minute with the pudding. And here we go, y'all. It baked for 31 minutes. And if you don't know how to check it, you want to take a spoon and push down in the middle. If you see any liquid, you know, bubbling up, then you know it's not ready yet. Now let's add our glaze to it. All right, yeah. Move it out of the way a little bit. I already know I'm going to mess this up because I'm not using the right spoon, and I don't care. It smells so good, y'all. It is hot. Oh, it's hot. Oh my God. Still delicious. Mmm. And it's perfect as far as the custard. Mmm. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all bearing with me, the people that have stayed around since my first bread pudding video. I hope this was much better for y'all. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.